All right. So today, I mean, this session is all about, and it's focused about how to scale brands that matter. And when we wanted to do this, we were thinking, okay, who's the best person, who's the best partner that we can bring on board that has experience in this and has been there for a while. So we thought that, hey, our partner, KLC, CEO and co-founder Mubarak Jafar, they've been there for one of the early cloud kitchens in the region. The family business have been in online ordering and supporting online ordering for a long time. They were involved in the launch of Talabat back in Kuwait and across the region. So we thought we bring Mubarak here to tell us more about how to do that and how to do that successfully. So Mubarak, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
So to start with, I mean, maybe Mubarak, can you tell us a little bit of the story about KLC? Just a quick story of how KLC started, what happened, and where we are today.
Fantastic. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the introduction, Najib. Just to go back, I mean, we set up KLC in 2008, so quite early on. We opened our first restaurant in 2009, so it was early times for delivery. It was a delivery-only restaurant, a small 40 square meter location, focused on delivering a wide variety of quality food at reasonable prices, delivering within a reasonable time. And at that time, restaurants were carrying out the deliveries. Aggregators didn't have a logistical fleet. So it was quite early on in 2009. We opened the restaurant. It was doing well. As you know, the majority of the food scene at the time was focused on opening up dine-in locations, takeaway locations in malls, in outdoor malls. And it was very early for delivery. As time went by, we joined Talabat in 2010 as a restaurant partner. Then we started to see orders spike. And then that's what really opened up our eyes to the online food delivery world. At the time, Talabat was very young. There were only several restaurants that were on the platform. We joined. We then decided as a family to acquire Talabat in 2010, and that really set the future of KLC forward. Opened up our eyes. We started setting up Talabat across the GCC, investing a lot more in converting customers from traditional hotline ordering to ordering online. At the time, orders were being conducted through the website, so customers were going onto the Talabat website, ordering. We didn't have applications at the time. We launched those later in 2012, 13 onwards. And then we set up the company in Talabat, specifically, my brother set it up in the GCC. And then that's when we really started to see things pick up. We then started opening up more outlets, so we opened another brand in 2012. That was when I joined KLC in 2012. And then we started to see the customer demand increase. So as the number of restaurants started to understand, we're talking about specifically in Kuwait, UAE, it was quite early days at the time. A lot of people started to invest more in converting their customers from ordering via their hotline to online. So, and then 2012, 13, 14, I think that was the huge transition that we saw. Restaurants were still doing their deliveries. 2015, we exited Talabat, and I think that was the big year that put, you know, the region on the map, simply because it was one of the first deals to be done in the region in the tech space. And I think that's when we started to invest in developing and creating more brands. So at the time, we had several brands focused on specific cuisines. As that market grew, we started to see there was a huge demand for niche brands, for cuisines that niche cuisines that weren't being catered towards. So the main, the bulk of orders that were being done were mainly, pizzas, burgers, American food, and the like. That's when we started to invest in setting up more kitchens, which are today, as we call them, cloud kitchens, dark kitchens, virtual kitchens. There's so many terms. I think they're all interchangeable. Yeah. At the time, there wasn't a term in 2015, 16, and 17 to what we were doing. We started to invest more in developing and building brands. And then as the demand went up for specific cuisines, we started to see the whole industry just develop and come together. And then aggregators started to deliver towards 2017 and 18. And then that's really what I think kicked the market forward. Exactly.
Industry. And today, I mean, just a quick numbers. So today you're around 60 brands across 15 cuisines. So you probably definitely have a a way around creating successful brands and brands that matter. Can you tell us a little bit more on, like, how do you create those brands? What do you consider, and what is your go-to-market strategy for those brands? If you take us into a deep dive on what do you take, what do you go through to create those brands, that would be great.
Excellent. So, I mean, something that we started doing very early on was to build everything in-house. So that was something that we intended on doing when we first initially started the business, and we continued throughout. So all 60 brands have been created and developed in-house by our team. So we've kind of set up two companies within KLC. So we have the operational side of the business, and then we also have the studio side of the business that basically focuses on developing and creating the brands. And that's essentially what makes, I would say, KLC unique, and what helped us in adapt and continue for such a long period of time. So we invest a lot of our time and effort in developing brands. We also create them. We've trademarked our brands as well. That was something that we did very early on. And I think today, I mean, that's a huge issue that we're seeing today in the market. A lot of virtual brands, they set up without actually trademarking their names or the rights to use these names. And then I think there were a lot of people that had similar names that were setting up via the aggregators. So that whole framework wasn't there. So one of the first things that we did was invest in having an amazing team to basically build this and then focus on the food. So at the end of the day, this is a food business, and that's something that's core to what we do. I'm a foodie. I love going out and ordering out. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about. Our team is passionate about. I mean, putting all the tech aside, it is a food business. It's a restaurant. It's an emotional experience, and I think that's something that we need to always remember and take into consideration. We are developing multiple brands, but the core of the brands is consistent. So the food, the quality of the food, and even the price point that we're selling our food. We're not on the lower end, we're not on the higher end. So we're trying to, offer quality food at reasonable prices to customers, and I think that's what people are looking for at the end of the day. And that's what makes, I think, KLC stand out.
I think something very interesting that, based on our recent research, that people, what they're looking for is two things. The two top things that keeps coming out is the faster deliveries and quality of food. So I think you definitely hit the nail there. And also earlier we were discussing this, and you were mentioning a lot about the association of the cuisine and the brand names. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? I mean, how did that help KLC?
So after setting up the brands, we realized that we had to make the brand search engine friendly, right? So if you enter Talabat or on any aggregator, Deliveroo, and you're craving, for example, Mexican food, or you're craving Italian food, if the name of the concept isn't relevant to the actual dish or the cuisine that you're looking for, it's going to make it a lot harder for customers to find you. So I think that really helped. So if all 60 of our brands, we either have the name of a dish or a cuisine in the name, just to make it easier for customers to know what we're serving. So this is where it all started, to be honest. So we had a brand that had multiple, it was an international concept, which was The Kitchen. It served different types of food. People didn't know that we had really good tacos and really good pasta in that brand, because at the end of the day, it was international. It served a lot of items from all over the world. When we decided to basically take a category from the menu and then name it, for example, with its actual dish or cuisine. So, for example, we had really good pasta dishes in The Kitchen. We actually created a virtual brand called Project Pasta. It turned out to be one of our best Italian and pasta brands. So we started to focus on making it very clear, so visibility, and also just to make it easier for customers to find the brands. And I think that's something that we've seen in the last 3 years. So we've been doing that for around 6-7 years. So we started off quite early. It was experimentation. We had a restaurant. We were looking at how we can utilize this restaurant. And then that's when we started introducing more brands within our cloud kitchens.
Okay. And also, so you're operating 24 hours, right? So you have 24 hours operations, 100,000 orders. So can you tell us a bit more of the 24 hours concept? How does that help you? And what technologies did you use to make that sustainable or efficient? At the end of the day, I understand that a single restaurant cannot operate 24 hours. That will exhaust their staff. And we lost. Okay. I think the mics are still working, so we can continue.
Yeah, no worries. So I think operating 24 hours was a massive move in the right direction for us. And we actually started to operate 24 hours around 8 years ago. We started off with a brand, and then once we introduced more brands, we started to utilize the kitchen throughout the day. So just to make the cloud kitchen as efficient as possible, we started to operate all of our brands throughout the day, and we have different brands that cater for different times of the day. And I think that's what really made our operation much more efficient and allowed us to basically become and turn profitable as a business. So I think that's what a lot of cloud kitchens are marketing, that it is a much more efficient operations. But the thing is, if you have a lot of one cuisine or a lot of one type of dish in a kitchen, it's very difficult to basically sell burgers at 7 and 8 a.m. So what we do is we try to deliver throughout the day with all of our brands and utilize the space, utilize all the team members that are in the location to cater for people at different times and different tastes and different preferences. And that's really how and why we created so many brands to cater for all the different times and occasions throughout the day. And I think 24-hour delivery actually started off when we were at Talabat. We were trying to convince restaurants to operate 24 hours because there was a gap. So a lot of restaurants used to close at 11 p.m. and then they pushed it to 12 a.m. and then so on and so forth. And then until we started to see that basically there was a huge demand. So midnight is actually a time that not a lot of restaurants except the QSR restaurants were catering towards. So I think once the quality restaurants that never used to deliver started delivering 24 hours, it created a demand. And I think that's exactly what happened. And to this day, we have all of our kitchens operating 24 hours across all countries, in Kuwait, Dubai, and Qatar.
Nice. And talking more about like the cloud kitchen model, it's all about scalability, it's all about expansion. And I'd like to touch on your expansion methodology, expansion plans, expansion approaches. And what is the best practices that you guys used to expand? I mean, today you're around 500 team members, 20 kitchens, and you expanded through UAE, you expanded through Qatar recently. So what is the best practices for a healthy expansion to make sure that whatever you did great in Kuwait, that you replicate that across all?
So, I mean, in 2016 specifically, we basically met with a franchise consultant. The idea was to franchise the business model across the world. And this was quite early on. We had multiple brands, and it was still, we were trying to understand exactly how this business model works. There wasn't a term used. I couldn't tell somebody cloud kitchen because that term wasn't around in 2016 and 17. As soon as, people started to understand virtual brands more. And then this was pre-COVID. So, around 2018 and 18 and 19, there was a lot of money that was being invested in this space. And then that's really what I think opened up everybody's eyes to the industry. Our main expansion, plan really started in 2022. So we basically decided after COVID to expand across in Dubai and Qatar. We opened in Dubai with a strategic kitchen operator in 2020. That went really well. We have a very good relationship with that kitchen operator. But then we decided in 2022 to basically take on the expansion on our own. And the first thing that we did was we made sure that the unit economics made sense in our home market in Kuwait. So we've been operating for 10 years. We just needed to make sure that we could replicate our standards, the food quality, the experience, the whole customer experience across markets. And then obviously Dubai was a no-brainer. We had to set up a shop here in Dubai. And then we decided to open in Qatar at the same time. And we're actually now, we're operating 3 kitchens. And the aim was to be operational before the World Cup. And alhamdulillah, we were able to achieve that.
Good luck. And so if you walk us through into the technology aspect of your expansion, what is key? What was key for you, and from a technology perspective, your tech stack into those kitchens to make sure that your transitions is smooth?
So originally, point of sale solutions weren't catering for these kinds of businesses. It was very difficult to actually find a point of sale solution that could basically cater for multiple brands in one location. And then I remember we sat with multiple POS providers during the years, and they were telling us we had to set up individual POSs for each brand. And I told them, if we're going to have 20, 30 brands in a location, I'm going to need the location just for the tablets and the machinery. So it was a very hectic period in the beginning. We found we found an amazing solution that really helped us take it forward. So we work with Foodex. basically allowed us to manage all of our brands with
A
one
multi-brand
multi-brand, yeah.
layer. Yep.
And then we also, I mean, obviously, integrators also during that same period, Deliverect, we also work with Deliverect, and I think that made life a lot easier. The integration between aggregator and POS, I think, is a massive move in the right direction, and the benefits there
Plus
are,
the ecosystem, like
yeah.
the full ecosystem.
and the whole ecosystem, I think, as a whole, so aggregator, POS, integrators, and the whole food ecosystem, I think, coming together in the last 3-4 years has made a massive, massive difference, in my opinion.
And so we have 4 minutes left. I'd like to ask you 2 questions for the last 2 minutes, and then we can open to everybody if they have any questions. So you touched on earlier about customers, they want quality food, right? And at the right price. So what is your strategy to, like in the market, to get the perfect balance, the right price and the right quality of food to attract those customers? And what do you think is the best practices that virtual kitchens should do anyway?
I think that because it's a virtual brand, your menu is essentially your shop. So I think really investing a bit of time in understanding your menu, how it works, what customers are looking for, and making it as seamless as possible for the customers. Many years back, it was very difficult to find restaurants that had add-ons, or even like if you wanted to add a note to a specific dish, usually restaurants weren't following that. So I think with time, people are trying to replicate that dine-in takeaway experience online, and I think the whole ecosystem's come together, and it made it a lot easier now. So I think the menu, your pricing has to be, you have to price reasonable.
Promotions, discounts, and
I'm personally not a big fan of discounts. I think discounts, they belittle and they basically drops the value of the brand. Unfortunately, in certain markets, with what's happened in the market, I mean, it's become a trend, and it's very difficult to stop that trend. And we're trying our best. I mean, in Dubai specifically, we apply discounts to some of our brands, and it's something that we are fully aware of, but it also puts on more pressure on all parties and all stakeholders that are in this process, because it's just driving more pressure on the restaurant, the aggregator, and everybody else involved, and it just reduces the margins, and it makes it very unsustainable.
very hard to scale and sustain.
Hard to scale, so you can generate a lot of revenue, you can generate healthy GMV, but I mean, the bottom line is going to be negative. So you have to manage that very carefully. In Kuwait specifically and Qatar, they're much less discount driven. And I think that's, it just helps the unit economics, and it makes more sense. So I think managing discounts is something very important. It's once you start to apply discounts, it's very difficult to stop.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, it's a vicious cycle, I would say.
And lastly, so how do you see the future of KLC and virtual restaurants in general? Do you see the brick and mortar? Do you see a franchise model? Tell us, where do you see the future of KLC and virtual brands in general?
I mean, we basically operate cloud kitchens. We do have a dine-in side to our business. We basically set up a virtual food hall as well in one of our locations in Kuwait. And we do have like takeaway stands in some of our cloud kitchens. Personally, I think that both dine-in and delivery are going to prosper. If you're going to be in the cloud kitchen space, you need to specialize and make sure that basically your business model makes sense. If you're attempting to do both, I think it's a huge challenge. It's a completely different challenge, and it has as well its pros and cons. When it comes to KLC, we're fully focused on expanding our cloud kitchens across the GCC. We're going to be continuing in Qatar, inshallah, covering the remaining areas that we're not covering, and then hopefully going to Abu Dhabi and then KSA and Bahrain. That's really the plan for us moving forward. We've taken our sweet time. So, I mean, it took us 10 years to get out of Kuwait, so we don't mind waiting. The main idea behind what we're trying to do is run a sustainable business. I mean, it's a family business. We don't have any VCs backing us or investment coming from outside. So it's very important that what we do is sustainable. And that's really what we are at the core of KLC. So we've been around for more than 12 years. Inshallah, we hope to be around for many more years to come. And I think having the right team as well for the expansion is key. And I think that is the most important element.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I mean, we have a little time. If anybody has any questions, I see a question over there.
Hello, thank you so much. Great points, and you ticked I think you checked every point that I think I had in my mind, and I have a couple of questions, but because of the time, I will focus on AI. The panel before you just scratched the surface of the AI and how they utilize this. So I want to hear from you. How do you guys utilize the AI, and if you have integrated any artificial intelligence, and if that helped you at all, or your partners improve the efficiency, increase sales, growth in any markets? Thank you.
I mean, our industry is definitely data-driven, and everything we do, I mean, we review numbers on a daily basis. It's something that we've been doing for many years. I think an advantage that we had, and alhamdulillah we were blessed, is that we had time to actually experiment when the market was still young. So, and we also saw how brands evolved over time. So what we're seeing today is brands have a much shorter life cycle. There was a time when we first launched a brand, it was basically performing and it was growing. Now what we're seeing is brands are actually, the life cycle for brands are much less, and this is all due to the data that we're seeing from brands that we're launching. So we have brands across different cuisines. That also opens up our eyes to ordering behavior, consumer behavior, what people basically prefer to order when, and because we're operating throughout the day, we can easily track and see how brands perform. And surprisingly enough, you'd be surprised that certain brands that one wouldn't have expected would perform during certain times of the day are actually doing really well. And that's due to not having a lot of competition that is there. So, I mean, a lot of our brands, because they're virtual, we have the luxury to open niche cuisines that basically are not available for customers throughout the day. So, for example, we can launch different types of food at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, and then when you go onto an aggregator and you basically look at restaurants that are available, you have a handful of restaurants that are delivering. So that's really an advantage, and that was due to studying and understanding the data, the numbers, the behavior, and the patterns and trends. And I think data is core to what we're doing. Without data, I think it would be very difficult to maneuver and grow and develop the business. So that's definitely something that we are investing in, and it's rewarded us, I would say, during our expansion.
Naji and Mubarak, thank you very much, guys. It's very informative. Again, guys, thanks very much.